Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today. It's Sunday, it's a beautiful day, and I'm just here to talk to you about socialization. Um, so I want to show you a mistake on the module that I'm about to fix, but I wanted to send this message before I have to go do something else really quickly. Um, your socialization paper is due this week, right? It's due September 16th. Well, that's a week from today. But the topics that we're going to work on in this class, in this week's module, relate to that. So right now, you're going to see chapter 4 reading, but in a few minutes, it's going to flip and you're going to have chapter 5 reading because all of the things that I'm asking you to think about come from that book, that chapter. Since we switched books, there's a little bit of confusion as to like why it goes in that order as opposed to the other order. But anyways, bear with me and accept my apologies. I'll fix that so that you'll have the accurate reading in the module so that you see. Because when you type on here, when you start here, socialization, it tells you socialization, blah, 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 learning objectives, chapter 5, blah, 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 blah. So the things that you need to help you write the paper are in chapter 5. So I'll take care of that. So please don't worry. You're going to watch a documentary called Tough Guys, which is going to talk about masculinity and violence. And so I'm curious to hear what you have to say about that. This chapter starts with isolated children and kind of this concept of nature versus nurture. And so there's a lot to think about in terms of how we become human. That's kind of where this process starts. When we think about it sociologically, it's like, well, how did you come into the person that you are? What did you learn early in life that kind of created this sense of what makes you you? And so there's a lot of ways in which people understand that. If you're taking psychology, you might be looking at Freud or Piaget or, one of those kind of developmental theorists in understanding self-development. In sociology, we use symbolic interactionism. We use Mead. Mead is really key with the stages of development. He talks about the 3 stages of development, the imitation stage, the play stage, and then the game stage, which some people call the team game stage. And those stages kind of work us through our experiences with life. And Mead is really key in socialization because he says, everything we do and become is through our interactions with other people. And so significant others like parents or other really close kind of role models, but also just what he calls the generalized other, which is society, basically. So the generalized other is like all the rules and norms of a culture that we kind of just learn to follow. And we do that through like being socialized within a culture. I love the socialization piece because it's very interesting and very, everybody can relate to it because we've all been socialized one way or another, whether it be within this culture or somewhere else. We all have these background experiences that keep us as we are. So your book starts out with the story of Danielle, who was raised in isolation, and so I'm gonna also add a clip about her in terms of the nature versus nurture and this idea that there's a critical period where if you catch kind of a neglected child at a certain point, there is a period to get back in which the person can actually end up being socialized basically and learning the things that they didn't learn in the early phases of life, but then there's a point where that doesn't really work. So there's also Jeannie, who was raised in isolation. I'll just send you some links if you're interested in this, and then you can watch it. Because there is this point where if you're not exposed to language, how are you going to learn it, right? So think about language, especially in socialization. Like if you don't hear people talking to you, it's virtually impossible to know what it would be like to interact with somebody using your voice, right? It's fascinating and really sad when you look at the situations that happened, and most of these are really old, but Danielle is 2005, I think, is when she was found, and that's just amazing that somebody raised her in such a dysfunctional and abusive way. All right. So yeah, so that's what we're going to work on this week. And then you guys for your paper, you're going to be thinking about these agents of socialization, right? And that's a specific section from the book that's in the prompt for your paper. And pretty much like, what are those agents of socialization that were really important for you? And I don't know because I'm not you. You get to decide. But an agent of socialization would be like your peers, your school group, your neighborhood, your family. And then you could also talk about aspects of self that also relate to, if they had a significant impact in you being the person that you are now, right? So, like, I would look at gender, right? What did I learn about being a woman that led me to do the things that I've done? Or what was I told I couldn't do? Does that make sense? So kind of think about those things as you're going through this week's reading and formulating your paper. And if you want to show me outlines or if you have any questions, please check in with me because my goal is that you do really well on this paper, right? I don't want it to be something that you don't do well on. I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. And I want you to take advantage of me, the Writing Center, and the librarians for formatting, for editing, all of that stuff. And this paper, I always tell my face-to-face students this. I always assign 8 to 10 page papers. So if you hate that, keep mental note, right? Don't take any more of my classes. But I do that because when you transfer, that's going to be standard. So I teach this same class at Sonoma State, and they have the same paper you do. I teach it face-to-face on Tuesday nights. So I talk to you on the computer, and then I go teach them. And they're all asking me questions about the paper, and they're all nervous about it. So it's not just community college, but they are used to it because they get those kind of papers assigned to them all the time. So I want you to blow my mind and write papers that at least are the same as theirs, if not better. And then I want to prove that. So anyways, yeah, that's my idea about your papers and just papers in general. So what makes you you? Who are you in the world? Start thinking about that. Start making notes. Start taking examples that kind of from your past that remind you of things. Gender, I don't know, ethnicity, social class, what school you went to, those sorts of things. All right? And please, please, please reach out to me if you need any help. All right, take care, everyone.